The internet is dead. Many of the people with whom you believe you interacted online never existed. And most of the activity on the sites you have visited may have been entirely artificially generated in order to give you the illusion of life. Entire communities of people with whom you believe you felt kinship may have been entirely populated by bots. And this entire internet facade was designed to manipulate public opinion and draw our minds into the matrix. Maybe none of this is real. Well, that's the theory at least. All of the most popular social media sites would be included in this. None of them would be safe. Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Reddit. Basically any site that has an active community of people posting, commenting, or communicating with each other. And most importantly, this would include places of commerce, like sites that are trying to sell you things. I'm sure you've heard about the dead internet theory by now. The idea has been a pretty popular conversation piece online for a while. Many aspects of the dead internet theory are true. And because it's dead now, I believe that we should develop a new philosophy around the internet. How we interact with apps, sites, and other people, and how much of ourselves we invest into the online world. When you look up the dead internet theory, you'll mostly find articles debunking the idea. Most of this actually comes from a figure that came out a few years ago saying that about 50% of the activity online is bots. And the misnomer is that most people assume that that means half of the comments or half of the interactions that you see online are fake people, but that's not what it meant. Online bots do lots of things. They just look at sites, they'll copy information, they'll clone things. Hell, YouTube has a ton of bots that it employs to do all sorts of things, like moderate the comments section, moderate my videos. However, most of the articles debunking the idea will admit that the internet does feel dead today. The popular theory is likely not true. I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of the internet was not always fake. But I think that this hypothesis offers us a very valuable and important thought experiment, because recently the internet really has changed a lot. The older version of our online experience has died. And I think that we should all be rethinking our last decade on the internet. It's easy to see how people can believe this. The internet theory appears to be true. The internet is no longer a haven for social interaction and belonging like it was in the beginning. And most of the free roaming Wild West-like environments online are now automatically moderated by bots. We're not even allowed to do half of what we could do in the past. A lot of websites, like this one, that used to be more community-oriented, have changed the focus of the viewer away from the community aspect and have instead replaced that with a focus on the content that the website provides instead. Our experience here is no longer driven by the community. We're no longer joining in the conversation and engaging with discourse. And even if you are trying to do that, it's 1,000 times harder today to get noticed and to get shared doing that than it used to be back in like 2016. Our entire experience here is almost entirely controlled by the websites and the apps themselves. Our relationship with these sites has become much more one-sided. The most obvious culprit for all of this is money. Corporate greed. The more users interact with the website itself, the more money the company makes. The more people look to the website itself to entertain them, validate them, or fulfill their needs, the less we're looking at each other for those things. Google killed the internet when they killed community. We've all been changed from communities to consumers. Think about it. Google doesn't want you wasting your time in the comments section discussing or thinking about the content that you just consumed. That doesn't make them any money. They just want you to click the next video so that they can make more ad revenue off of you. They want you to engage with the content that the site provides for you, that it recommends for you. And really, it's not even worth it anymore, because chances are if you do stick around to actually have discussions in the comments, you're just wasting your breath on bots and fake accounts that aren't even trying to understand what you're saying anyways. There are fewer and fewer people here that are actually trying to engage in meaningful discourse. Either way, they trap you here. That's the game. Keep you here, keep you clicking, keep you engaged. There are a few different ways to look at the dead internet idea. In a historical sense, whatever the main catalyst was into the modern era, most people believe that the big change happens somewhere around 2016. But poetically, people started to notice that the internet seemed dead somewhere around 2020. Likely because everyone was forced to stay home because of the big cough. And because we were in our pajamas watching Tiger King the whole time. It was like the Matrix had to go into overdrive to keep our attention. And people started to notice just how belligerent the internet is at keeping our attention, and just how unfulfilling our interactions are online. Everyone that grew up with the internet started to notice that it wasn't doing for them what it used to do when they were a teenager. It's like we all collectively noticed that our desire to connect and our dependency on the internet to do so was being exploited. But the dead internet theory goes a lot deeper than just how the internet feels today, or how many bots are interrupting public discourse on social media. The internet has devolved from a pastime into a corporate and political machine, where the internet used to be a portal into a different world with its own rules and its own communities. Now the internet has kind of leapt off of the screen and become part of the real world. Really, I think this probably began around the 2010s with the Arab Spring uprising. This was when the internet directly affected the real world for the first time. The internet, and more importantly social media, demonstrated itself as a way to connect with and directly affect the world. But our leaders did not like this. It made them really nervous that a grassroots movement could form over social media here in the West. So in response, the corporations that run all of the most popular social media sites changed their policies, changed the way information spreads across the internet, and changed the way communities can form and communicate with each other, effectively destroying any chance of another uprising like this from happening anywhere else. I've mentioned this in a previous video, but the furthest we got over here was the Occupy movement, which only really lasted a few weeks before the government shut us down hard. And since then, we've never seen another grassroots movement like that in the West. Which is shocking because we need that now more than ever. I know, I remember that when information used to spread more organically over the internet. Now algorithms are designed against us to stop us from doing that. And now whenever a movement like that happens, they either take control of the narrative, they take control of the community, or they just kill it off. And now they're the curators of our communities and movements, taking our identities away from us. Now the media has even adopted our language and our titles, and they've thrust these conversations into the mainstream, essentially taking ownership of them. Basically taking away any individual power that we used to have in that discourse. Now any connection that we have to those ideas that begin online really just make us vulnerable to being misrepresented in the media over those issues. The kinds of fringe conversations or the contrarian or counterculture ideas that we embody have all become part of the public discourse. Now you hear politicians and the mainstream media using terms and referencing issues that only used to exist online for decades. The moment that I realized that we had lost our individual power on the internet and that the online world was now outside was the first time I heard a European politician that got elected because he was against the woke agenda. I was like, yo, they got brain rot for real. But it seems like all of that is on purpose, because the effect of that has been that they're dumbing down complex issues and identities and removing all nuance around the conversations about those ideas. Throwing these conversations out into the public divorces them from any original meaning that was championed by the original leaders of those ideas. Once those words end up in the mouth of a political leader or a news anchor, everything gets boiled down into quippy catchphrases. Now, I know there are countless positive examples of meaningful movements and ideas that began online and then ended up in the real world. I'm not saying that that can't happen, but I found it genuinely terrifying when I first heard politicians engaging with that level of discourse. It felt like a devolution of politics. The thing is, even with those positive examples, we should still be skeptical about them, because when the mainstream adopts ideas that were originally authored by real people like us, they're really just taking ownership of those concepts. They're taking ownership of those movements so that they can control them and manipulate public perception around them. Even with positive examples of movements or communities, the media will choose for us what they believe to be ideal examples of members of that community or ideas that come from it, instead of trusting those movements themselves to present their own best representatives. The media will almost always choose somebody that they personally believe to be inoffensive, instead of showing us people who are actually genuinely effective against those issues. The media will choose for us what they believe we need to see or what we need to hear about the issues those communities champion. And the media will even hide or actively suppress information about the more toxic or destructive actions taken by a movement, making it harder for us to come to a meaningful opinion about that movement. Understand that once the corporate mainstream begins discussing our ideas or our identities, they're essentially taking control of public perception around those ideas, effectively taking those communities' power away from them. I suppose I shouldn't be too surprised hearing politicians complain about woke culture. The internet has always empowered the more toxic members of our society to be bold and say ignorant things. And I think that the effect of that kind of toxicity being normalized on social media has been that our politicians are now emboldened in their hatred and prejudices. And now they feel totally comfortable engaging with their constituents on the level of a 14-year-old edgelord on 4chan. It's like the internet gave them permission to be shitty and heartless. The internet gave them permission to act like clowns on parade, which then feedback loops back onto the internet, emboldening those constituents to be toxic and hateful. That was a death for me. That's when I experienced the death of the internet. The internet is no longer a place that you can go to escape the mainstream and create communities that contradict mainstream thinking. The internet is now just an extension of the mainstream. We were usurped. Our leaders all just turned around and pulled a "how do you do, fellow kids" on us. This new arrangement gives us so much less power within these movements. Our role has changed from being thought leaders to followers or believers of ideas. And this has also made people less responsible for their own words or actions, as now people can just be seen as fans of a concept rather than the author of those ideas. We don't own the words that we say anymore. They do. Several authors have made similar observations about how the internet has changed today, like Hito Stay Real, Nadia Eggbol, and Joanne McNeil. Basically, the way they put it is that we went from a collective of users who used to look at and talk to each other, sovereign individuals with their own opinions and perspectives, and we've changed into a giant audience that turned our focus onto the stage, the program. Instead of a community of creators with their own unique identities, now the creators and the content that the websites provide for us create our identities for us. The internet feels dead today because it went from being a place where we could hang out, interact, and create, and the internet has changed into an entity, like a person who commands our attention. This isn't really a place to socialize and share anymore. The internet has turned into a one-sided conversation where ideas are dictated to us. Back in the early days of social media, like with MySpace, we used to be able to control our experience on the site. That was one of the things people loved most about social media back then. We used to have agency over what kind of content we wanted to see when we logged on. The people you follow and the subjects that you like would be the things that would show up on your feed. But one day, Facebook would change that. They turned the online experience around on us. Instead of seeing the people and the topics that we were following on our feed, we are now seeing trending news stories and trending topics on our feed. Suddenly, social media didn't give a fuck what we wanted anymore. They were telling us what we wanted. When we log on to Twitter or Facebook today, there are already trending subjects or big drama happening somewhere that they want you to see. When you log on now, the internet already has plans for your attention and your energy before you even have time to decide what it is you want to do. And this has also basically killed casual internet use. Instead of just popping online for a few minutes to share something or interact with people, you end up trapped down this rabbit hole of meaningless garbage designed to keep you depressed and angry. Now we have almost no control over what we see online. We have no control over what emotion we want to feel while we're online. Do you remember when we used to go on the internet to have fun? YouTube is probably the worst culprit for this. It doesn't matter what you're subscribed to. It doesn't matter if you have notifications on. YouTube is just gonna show you what they want you to see. It's like you have almost no agency over your experience here anymore. Hell, you can't even really search for videos like you used to. Now when you search for anything, the first 2 pages of results are just mainstream news content. That's frustrating, because it goes against everything that the internet used to stand for. And that's another major difference that I find today, is that we used to have a reason to go online in the first place. In the old days, when you'd boot up your computer, you'd already have a specific idea of where you wanted to go online, and you had a specific type of experience in mind. The effort that it would take to get onto the internet in the first place would make our time here much more intentional. And the internet used to be populated by people who were willing to put in that effort and didn't care that you weren't cool for being a computer nerd. But now that we have apps right on our phone that we can just casually click anytime that we're feeling bored, now that the internet has become easily accessible to any normie out there, now the internet is designed to trap you by constantly assaulting you with trending topics, or by auto-playing tragic, obscene, or vulgar videos without your consent. The internet draws you in and keeps you stuck by making you depressed. The internet directly affects your subconscious mind by making you angry or sad, or by making you feel a sense of lack, which just makes it that much more likely that you're gonna click the next thing in hopes that it'll make you happy or make you feel fulfilled. Or often the internet will just present you with obscene content, asking you to share your thoughts about what you just saw, trying to get you stuck in a comment section, having an endless fight with angry idiots. Or at very least, it encourages you to continue to research the subject that you just looked up. Whenever a shocking or depressing video autoplays and then asks me to share my thoughts on what I just saw, my only thought is that I no longer want to have my life affected by unsolicited content. Content that's clearly designed to attack our subconscious and draw us into a dark place, simply so it can keep us engaged with the platform. Social media. Having car crashes and fistfights constantly autoplaying on your feed all day takes a toll on your subconscious. It takes a toll on your emotional state. And don't even get me started on celebrities and personalities. This generation of shills and industry plants in pop culture have all had their success supposedly begin on the internet. They all have this cute little story about how they used to be a nobody, somebody in a trailer park, or someone that worked at a McDonald's. They were a nobody with nothing, and then suddenly one day a bunch of kids liked their stuff on SoundCloud or TikTok or some shit. And now they're a multi-millionaire actor or rapper or singer or something. Those stories are almost all fake. It's all just an illusion that's created to humanize hand-picked celebrities and influencers. But it also tricks children into endlessly giving away their energy and creativity for free on social media. It's created like a new type of fan cult even. By creating an illusion that celebrities are normal people like us that just so happen to rise up through our ranks to become famous, it manipulates manipulates the youth into believing that if they continue to engage with celebrity culture and they continue to give away their energy and creativity for free to get attention on social media, then one day they'll be rich and famous too, just like Ice Spice. Celebrity worship is a trap. Having all of those celebrities on our social media feed in general is kind of scary. We don't need a connection to that world. We don't need to feel like we're attached to them. We don't need The Rock on our screen telling us he loves us and making us feel like a part of his life. Most celebrities are black holes that don't deserve the influence that they've been given. And that goes for social media celebrities as well. These people are not role models. They're not cool people we should want to emulate or idolize. These people are do not consume their content. Do not support them in any way. They're simply toxic people with out of control egos. Most of them don't even have anything meaningful to say, and definitely should not be our social leaders. But the celebrities took over the internet. And that happened around 2016, 2017 as well. Before the 2010s, you would not catch a mainstream celebrity dead on the internet. But now, they all have to be online for some reason. When the internet changed and the celebrities took over, it destroyed the individual success of smaller creators within their respective communities. And it replaced those leaders with megastars who have no business being the voices of our generation. Yet, that's who they shuffled to the front of the stage for the rest of us to watch. That's who they present to us as the important people that the rest of us are relegated to making drama videos about. Today, something like 90% of the people on the internet do not contribute anything to the collective conversation. Maybe 9% of people contribute a little bit, and only 1% of the people online are actually generating the content that we consume. Only 1% of the people on the internet have 90% of the influence. That's staggering. That's broken. How did that happen? We used to have communities of individuals, communities of people driving their own conversations, communities of people creating art and content. Now there are just communities of fans, communities of content consumers. Now it's just one big audience that watches the show. The discourse online isn't about what you making anymore. Now everybody's asking, what you watching? Nobody's making anything anymore. That's why the internet is dead. We literally took Tumblr for granted. Now those days of innocence are gone. Now the internet's just like Netflix. Now we've all been distracted away from creating change in the world or contributing to humanity. And our parasocial delusions have us all believing that interacting with celebrities and being fans of content are our means to affecting the world. Or we've been led to believe that the machine that we worship is taking care of those issues for us simply by the virtue of our favorite YouTuber talking about those issues in front of their 10 million subscriber audience. God, we're so impotent compared to the 2010s. Everyone is so addicted to their screen. Everyone is so engaged with the Matrix. They don't even realize that they're completely disengaged from the real world. It's like they've disappeared. People are less inspired to create in general. People are less inspired to constructively participate in general. Everyone's efforts to change the world through action and creation have devolved into an effort to worship the right politician or celebrity, or attach themselves to the correct ideology or identity group. And we get to select from a list of predetermined choices instead of carving our own path. The worship and the belief that people give to mainstream ideas or mainstream celebrities becomes their entire identity. And people will even defend their hope for a better future or the connection that they've made with somebody else's ideas, as if the faith that they display makes them a moral superior. Everyone's deluded. The internet has expanded out into the real world, and this is the effect. Everyone just stands still now Everyone gives all of their energy and attention to the machine and just lets the world happen around them. They just accept their passive role in life and watch the show. They depend entirely on their faith towards figures they see in the media to feel security and derive their identity. Their lives and their drama are presented to us as if they're more important than our lives. And we just accept that. You ever wonder why so many YouTubers waste precious server space uploading endless hours of videos reporting on the drama of other YouTubers? All this internal drama between celebrities on every social media site? It's because this is the mindset now. This is the modern online cult. You're either watching the show, you're commentating on the show, or you're one of the actors in the spotlight. If you're just some random person with a Yeti mic in their bedroom, the audience doesn't want to hear about you and your life. They don't want to see your art or hear your philosophy. You're nobody. No, the audience wants to hear you talk about Logan Paul's moldy Lunchables ripoff. Sites like this operate off of entropy, I swear to God. All the streaming sites are like that too. Self-commentating within a single site like that, all that local drama, there's no way that's sustainable. It's like these sites are imploding in on themselves, for Christ's sake. But that kind of engagement is better for Google, this endless spiral of local drama, because they're keeping everyone's attention on YouTube. It serves to legitimize YouTube and make it appear more important. You stay trapped here in the artificially generated drama and trapped in your negative emotions. We've been lied to in a way that we could have never imagined, and we need to figure out how far back in our discourse this manipulation goes. How much of the hype and drama was generated by the sites themselves? How much of that was promoted and spread by bots? How much of what we saw was created by AI or generated by some sort of algorithm? We may never know the answers to those questions. The important thing to recognize is that our collective memory is tainted. Today, we've lost our communities of creators and thought leaders. We've lost our collective power and our collective influence online. As an audience, we used to choose who and what was popular. We would vote for that with our engagement. But now, they choose all of that for us. The internet is dead because they took it away from us. We need to mourn the loss of that sincere environment that we used to have here and accept that the internet is not for us anymore. What we see here is not by us anymore. The internet just exists to convince us to focus our attention on pillars of interest, like celebrities, meaningless causes, or things that keep you angry and stuck. And they keep us fueling these machines that draw our focus. Our engagement doesn't mean anything anymore. Because the internet functions this way now, because we've morphed into an audience hooked on content and internet personalities, with our comments being moderated by bots and our personal content being suppressed by algorithms, we don't have the power to create motion against these machines anymore. We don't have the ability to break away and create change. Well, we don't have that power online anymore. We need a new way to elect our own thought leaders and popular artists. We need a new way to create publicly accessible information that our overlords can't suppress. Let go of your addiction to content, celebrity drama, and rage bait. Stop giving your energy to the machine behind the screen. It will never create positive change for you. It will never give you happiness. It will never fulfill you. It will never give you belonging, no matter how much faith you display towards the figures here. The one-sidedness of our collective experience online is what makes the internet dead. The enforcement of mainstream ideas and the suppression of uniqueness and contrarianism is what makes the internet dead. The loss of counterculture communities and communities in general is what makes the internet dead. Websites changing their model from making users happy into making the advertisers happy is what makes the internet dead. Things being suggested to you by algorithms instead of word of mouth is what makes the internet dead. The internet becoming a corporate hellscape is what makes the internet dead. And we want those things. We want community. We want belonging. We want validation for our experiences. Our desire to connect and to belong is being used against us. The idea of online community was hijacked and turned into content that's fed to us to consume. If we want to find meaning in our social interactions, we're not going to get that on social media. We're on the losing side of that exchange. Create meaningful action in your real life. Use your energy and your passion to create beauty from which your entire community can grow. Let's all heal from this and move forward together. Leave the Matrix.